Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another round 3 of the console tier 4 season. The drivers tonight are here to traverse the Singapore Grand Prix, the Marina Bay Street Circuit, and alongside me I have Niall Gio. Good evening, Niall. How excited are we for tonight's action?
Well, I'm quite excited actually. As you can probably see right now, it is a wet qualifying, which is probably going to shake up the grid quite a lot because, you know, a lot of people wouldn't have expected the wet. I don't think many people would have even practiced in the wet. So it's really going to be, I think, a bang over race. Maybe one of the best races of the season, in fact, because Singapore always produces a really, really exciting race with all the DRS zones and the opportunities. But with the wet now as well, it's going to really shake up the grid. So we could see some very fast people potentially even crash in qualifying and be at the back.
And, well, yeah, I mean, the American Grand Prix, the last time out, that was if we beat that, then it'll be very exciting with 3 drivers going into the last sector, still fighting for the victory. Contact, then further contact between Triscay and Pavlos. Saw Nico pick up the win in the end by what was a considerable margin, considering the fact that he came into the final sector, I believe, in 3rd place. And we're riding on board with said Triscay at the moment as he heads through sector number 3, the revised sector, because there's no more, well, at least for now, there's no more bridge section. You can tell how much he's struggling on the grip, and there he doesn't want to ride the curve, and he just slides wide on the exit. But coming around the final corner now, the Ferrari will be the first one to set a valid lap, and it's going to be a 1 minute 40.421. And well, we'll have to see whether that's a good lap, well, as Nico goes 2 tenths faster. I think from the looks of things, it's going to be a decent lap because those two were the quickest last time out. But Duncan completely proves me wrong already. 139.382, wow. And the Alpine chucks himself to the front of the grid and into, well, maybe already pole position contention. We'll have to see whether he is, as some more drivers come around to set times. Micromass being the first one, big slide out of the final corner, but 140.2 is the time that he sets. So yeah, I think it is going to be a good lap there from the Alpine from Duncan. Bram de Wissel comes around the corner. He'll be the next one across the line. 1 minute 41.3. He goes slowest of all so far. Mad Dogs across the line. 1 minute 41.004. So quite a wide spread as now we're going to watch on board with Ollie Hornby, who's coming through the final sector now. I don't think it's going to be anywhere near the 39s, 40s, but it's good to get that banker in.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really solid bank from Duncan. 8 tenths ahead of the rest of the field so far. Ollie takes a scary amount of curb at the final corner, but now it sets off for another lap. I think he backed out the lap in the last sector there, so see how he does now. This is quite neat first couple corners. Lot more curb used than you'd expect in a dry, really. So these lot are attacking the curbs and almost attacking the wall, but careful to not attack the wall too much, otherwise the tyres is going to fly off. Let's see this sector 1 time. 29.5, it's 3 tenths up on his personal best. Just take a look compared to Duncan. It's pretty much matching Duncan actually, so it could be still a good lap actually from Ollie. As Amos Knight, by the way, he gone 2nd fastest just now, 1.4 tenths behind Duncan, so that's a good banker to get in as well. Everyone else, just Vzox has just gone 3rd fastest. As Ollie sends it through the middle sector. Taking a wide approach to hairpin, which is, it's interesting seeing a different variety of racing lines into that hairpin. It's really been fun watching over the years. So Ollie's 8 tenths up on itself, but is it going to be close to the front? We'll have to see. Oh, he hits the wall. He's gone far too much to the right, but I don't think that's caused any trouble. He sends it into the little chicane here. Well, it's not chicane really, but it's, you know. In the final corner, try not to crash this time. Using a bit of curb. Cross the line, it's 6th fastest, 9 tenths after. I thought that was a better lap than it actually was.
It wasn't a terrible lap. I mean, he is an entire second off of pole position.
One was good.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't too bad. We're watching on board now with Bram de Wissel, who is the slowest driver of those to have set a time so far, Josh has invalidated, and he will not be he will not be crossing the line with a valid lap. But Bram de Vissel, with, well, apparently a purple first sector, we know on this game that is not necessarily the truth. Watching now as he heads through what used to be the Singapore Sling, now is a little bit easier to traverse. However, in the wet, we could be proving completely wrong. It could be a little bit more difficult for them to go through, and we'll see whether it is difficult for them to go through with 10 minutes remaining on the clock. Bram de Vissel, he's up by 7.5 tenths. This is going to be a decent lap if he's able to hook it up in sector 3, and obviously that's no guarantee, although a lot of it now is straight. It's a pretty boring sector, all things considered, because of the fact that they've removed the bridge, the tricky part of the sector. But this has now become the only braking zone, actually, of sector 3, apart from the one right at the very start as Micromash goes and improves. 139.608 is the time that he sets. What sort of time are we going to see the Mercedes come across the line with? It's a 140.271. So again, people struggling in that final sector to really find that time that maybe the likes of Duncan have had. But I'm sure we'll be seeing improvements there. VK, he was 3 tenths up on his time, either at the end of the first sector or at the end of his first lap. I think it was the end of the first sector, so definitely time to find for the Aston Martin. We haven't got the dominant qualifying driver, Bella Fox, here tonight, so it's pole position is open to pretty much anyone else. Nico, 1.5 seconds up as he heads into sector number 3. And, well, an excellent exclamation there. You can see how close Nico gets to the wall, really. You have to get close to the wall to gain any real time here because of how difficult the circuit is. And now he comes out of the penultimate corner. He's about to head into the final one. How brave are you? On the throttle, Nico, as he comes round the final corner. This could be pole position. It is indeed pole position for Nico.
Second.
An entire second up on the Alpine.
I was just referencing to VK, actually. I was watching him. He just completely slapped the wall in sector 2. Almost potentially DNF'd, actually. That's the exclamation I made, but they got to get close to the barriers here, though, because you can't, while it is wet and while it is Singapore, you need to get as close to the barriers as you possibly can to get the best lap possible, because you can't just be, can't just like take it very lightly. This you need to get still close to the barriers. You need to take the full track. You need to use it all. So, let's see if Micromash does that. He's starting his lap now, in 4th. He barrels down to turn 1, using a lot of yellow paint. Gear 2, that's interesting. The wet. Short shifted gear 4, that's interesting. It's in this really tricky bit to get right. You get so close to the wall. Most people actually hit the wall on the exit there, so see this first sector if it's any good.
As Trisket in the meantime goes up into second.
490, that's 5 tenths up. Track evolution. It's really coming alive here. Here's now out into another quite tricky section. A lot of people hit the wall here with their back tyre, actually, so it's really quite a difficult section to get right. You need to get really close to the wall, like Micromash has just done. Heading now down into the reverse section. No, not reverse section, no, reverse section. Taking the wide line into the hairpin, gear 2 in hairpin, interestingly, and short shift to gear 3. That's interesting. Keeping a lot of ERS here for the last sector. Potentially a bit too much. A second up, Micromash could go almost fastest and ahead of Nico if he just gets the last sector right, which is really one of those sectors where you need to just like make use of it. Like it's quite stressful, the final sector, if anything, because while it is quite boring, as you said, but it's just one of those critical sectors you need to get right. And let's see if Micromash has got it right. 55 thousandths off Nico.
Yeah, that is a great lap from the McLaren that sees him 6 tenths ahead of Trisket in 3rd place, or 5.5 if you're being pernickety is the word that I would use. Duncan, though, he's improving by 1.2 seconds, and he's not even breached the 3rd sector, really. So we'll see as he comes round the final couple of corners, but this could be a lap that throws him onto pole position. As you mentioned, track evolution will be absolutely vital, and at the moment, Duncan is on for pole. He could be on for an even more dominant lap as he comes across the line. It's going to be a 137.743, 6 tenths up on Nico, and he's impressive so far, Duncan, as he's just been able to blast everybody out of contention, really, with the Alpine going 6 tenths up ahead of Nico. He was on pole position by a significant margin in those first runs as well. And yeah, as you say, track evolution, it's even more crucial in the wet. It's crucial in this game in general, but even more in the wet, mainly because of the fact that, well, some of these drivers will be blasting their way through the same lines as everybody else. And yeah, I mean, the spray will have just been spread away from a certain area. If you can hit that certain area, then there will be traction there for you, because that is where the dry line is. And although it's not going to be dry enough to literally drive dry tyres on it, it's the next best thing, because the rain will continue to come down. It actually looks heavier than it was at the start of the session, as we're watching now off board with Ollie Hornby as he heads through the second sector and the split time, and he is 8 tenths up on his time. So this could be a decent lap from Ollie here, where he could find himself in the mid-pack, 6th or 7th place. 6th obviously being smack bang in the middle of these 12 drivers we've got racing tonight. We did have 14 tick attendants. Maybe we're going to have 2 turn up later, but at the moment we have 12, and Ollie Hornby round the final corner now. What sort of time is the Williams going to be able to set? It's a decent final sector. This could be better than expected. It is a 138.4, and he slots himself into 4th place.
Yeah, I'm getting very close to WORs in the middle sector, actually. I was quite surprised by how close I got the WOR, but I think now that's his qualifying done, unfortunately. I don't think he's going to get... Yeah, I think it's done, because he's going to run out of fuel, as you can see, but... And he's not going to have time to go back out. So that might be Ollie Hornby done, though. So that... Maybe it's a worse lap than he wanted, considering a track evolution at the minute. But you did say that the rain looks a bit heavier, but I think there's a big dry line forming as well as spins. But yeah, I think track evolution is kind of just opposing this rain that's kind of falling a bit heavier. Obviously with Singapore having a tropical climate, the rain is quite heavy, but we'll see. As AMS Nico is on a lap here in the middle sector. Looks quite neat so far. Currently 6 tenths off Duncan. Let's see if he can find a good improvement after the middle sector. We'll see the split in a second. Using some good ERS here. Oh, he's a second and a bit up, actually. What? Has he just cut the corner there? Oh, that's interesting. That's not quite looking. But anyway, this is going to be quite a great lap from Nico. So Duncan is going to have to respond with a banger here on his last lap if he wants to probably keep pole. But Nico should take P1 by around 8 tenths as through the final corner. Oh, even more than that, 1.2 seconds. So that's a great lap from Nico then. So Duncan is definitely going to have to respond, and everyone else is really going to have to improve their laps. But Ollie Hornby, obviously now done with qualifying, almost 2 seconds off. Has he gone out too early there? I wouldn't.
I think so. With that track evolution, yeah, Ollie retires from the session. He will not be improving on a 138.4 as Junkie Angle jumps up and demotes Ollie to 5th. Triscay is coming through the penultimate sector now, the second sector, the middle sector. It makes a little bit more sense to say. But yeah, I mean, Ollie Hornby, he did, I think, come out a little bit too early. He could have pushed round for another lap because the tyre wear on these intermediates, it's not as bad as it would be on a drier compound of tyre because of the fact that they're expected to last a little bit longer, because we don't know how long the rain's going to last. But yeah, at the end of the day, that is just what happened. As Mad Dog's 138.0, he moves up into 4th place. Triscay, he comes around the final couple of corners to set his final time probably of this session, although he's got enough ERS to go again. 139.221, so he didn't actually use it in that final sector. Watching on board now with, who's that in the final sector? Let's have a look. It's Duncan who's preparing for his outlap, so we will have a look at... VK's also on an outlap. Who's not on an outlap? Nico's
got damage, actually. He can't go again.
Who has?
But he's 1.2 seconds clear. Nico, he's got damage. So he's hit the wall somewhere, but...
Yeah, I mean, when you're 1.2 seconds clear, it's going to have very minimal difference as whether you can go for another push.
With the evolution, though, it could be a lot. Well, it could be almost worthless, that 1 for 2 seconds with evolution. Let's just see Duncan barreling to the end of the first sector. Let's see the split here. Oh, we're only a couple thousands up, actually. It's still a good first sector. So he heads down now into the complex of corners. As he swings it across, all the way to the white line, and all the way up to the wall. Someone's just gone up. I think Josh has gone to P8 just now. So he gets right up to the wall here. You need to really, really go up close to the wall. Almost kiss the wall, in fact, to extract all the time in it. So it's on into the hairpin. A lot of people are using gear 2 in a hairpin and short shifting to third. Duncan hasn't short shifted as AMS Knight goes second fastest, 7 tenths off. Duncan is now almost 8 tenths up. He's got 4 tenths to find now in the last sector. Checkered flag has come out. Paulos, interestingly, is down in last, 4 seconds off. Triske goes third fastest. Brown de Wiesel goes 7th fastest. As Duncan sending it through the final sector here, using all his ERS. Into the final corner, swing it across. Use a bit of curb. Cross the lines the fastest. Ooh, missed out by a tenth and a half.
So the Alpine will not be taking pole position, but as it stands, he's on the front row. We've got 2 drivers left to set times. It's Micromash, who's 6 tenths up, and it's Junkie Angle, who is 4 tenths up. Micromash is in the final sector, whilst Junkie Angle is just starting his time. So we'll watch on board with the McLaren as he comes around the final corner now. This is really the time where you want to be setting a decent lap, and the McLaren is up to the line. It's a decent lap. 4th place is where he's going to sit, but he could be toppled off of it because Junkie Angle's improving by 4 tenths. He's going to be aiming for maybe P3 as he comes up to the line.
Ooh.
It's not enough of an improvement. He sits in P6.
As Josh drifts around the final corner and goes P7, which demotes Ollie Hornby to 10th. So Ollie probably probably angry with himself because he's gone far too early for his last lap, as you can see, 2 seconds off. But the real mystery is how on earth has Paulos, who got podium last race, I believe, P3 in Kota, how has he ended up 4 seconds and in 12th? That's going to be something we're going to have to see, because that's surprising. Just from like a big shift from a podium to there in qualifying. That's surprising.
Well, he'll be desperate for something, maybe even dry conditions, because clearly something's not clicking in the wet for Pavlos, and VK as well. He was having the same problems, but he was just invalidating lap after lap after lap. But confirmation then of your grid. AMS Nico takes pole position. Duncan is in 2nd place, 1.5 tenths off, and then it's a huge 7-tenth gap between AMS Nico on pole and Knight in 3rd. Then it's more 4 tenths back to Micromash, Triske and Junkie Angle, and then Josh, Mad Dogs, Bram de Wissel, Ollie Hornby, VK and Pavlos will be rounding out your grid. And we're going to get, well, before we get our lobby restart, we're going to get a little bit of fun as the drivers try to crash. It should be pretty easy for them to crash around the Singapore. It's incredibly tight, and if it's easy in this session, it's going to be even easier in the race.
Well, we'll see, because some people might take this opportunity now to do a full practice start, which could be crucial for the actual race, unless it's wet, which, yeah, that wouldn't be great. But, you know, it's with the amount of people we saw having issues in qualifying. I think, another one having front rank damage at the very end. I think it was, I don't remember actually, but more than one person got damage at the end, pushing too hard. One of them got pole, which is fine, but yeah, I mean, it's going to be quite messy, I think. So now we're going to get the practice starts, and a lot of mediums I can see on the grid, interestingly. So probably a lot of people doing medium hard strats, but someone just didn't have a practice start at all at the back. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, I think, with the amount of people hitting the wall so far. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we will certainly see, and I think it is going to come down to a battle between Nico and, surprisingly, Duncan. We haven't seen him really we haven't really seen him come into his own at any point this season, but Nico we have. Nico we saw win the last race in dramatic fashion in the final sector, just snatching that victory away. But from the looks of things, post-race, he picked up a penalty and he was dropped down to P3, which saw Triscay, who had a coming together with Pavlos. It saw them just fighting incredibly hard. I'm sure we'll be seeing a little bit more fighting as we get into this session. But yeah, Duncan 5th and 7th so far. It's not been the greatest season of the world for him, and he'll be hoping that this will be what really takes him up to something in this title. And yeah, I'm just checking now, 3-second time penalty for Nico because of what happened in that final sector with Pavlos, and yeah, that cost him the victory. That's unfortunate because it was an incredible race on track, and there was plenty of incidents that could have been reported. It's just a shame that ended up being the one with a description punt to pass being the reasoning for that. But regardless, I mean, that was it for Nico, and he will be looking for vengeance tonight as Triscay takes 2 victories in 2 races. The only other driver with a 100% podium record even is Kingsman, who is not racing tonight. Instead, well, I mean, Nico DNF from the first race. If you count that 3rd place as a 100% finish podium record, I wouldn't. But that's me being cynical, I think. And yeah, we are waiting to get going for a race session, and it's a race session which should bring drama. The Marina Bay Street Circuit is an incredible one. If you're looking for drama, I will get the track map up. I can never say that. Get the track map up in just a second, and here it is. So we've got 5, almost bang on 5 kilometers, 19 turns around the Marina Bay Street Circuit, which is, well, it was the first street circuit back in 2008. We obviously all know what happened in that inaugural race. And, well, the last time I mentioned that, and I mentioned that might happen in a league race, I got slated. So I won't be mentioning that tonight. But 19 corners. It is normally, I believe, 22. But in that final sector, you can see that little, the little rise that's normally the bridge section. That has been removed because they're doing works on it, which means that we will not be seeing that, I think, until 2026, 25 or 26, something like that. But at the moment, this is the format that we have. 3 DRS zones as well, which should make the racing exciting. They're all spread out. With one being down the start-finish straight, of course, one being after turn 5 and one being after turn 13. So there's a decent amount of time in between them and a decent amount of ability for drivers to try to break away. And if they're able to break away, then it will be fine. If they're not able to break away, then I think we could be seeing DRS trains tonight. And, well, when there's DRS trains in this tier, we know what happens. It's a lot of chaos, a lot of drama. And that's exactly what we want to see out of console tier 4 tonight.
Yeah, DRS trains are really, really coming around here in Singapore. I mean, it's very, very crucial, in fact, to stay in a DRS train, because if you don't stay in that DRS, a magic 1 second, your pace just falls off a cliff. Like, it's really difficult to get back in that magic 1 second for DRS. Like, if you don't have it with, there's 3 DRS zones on the game, I think, because I forgot to update it, but it's the main, obviously, on the main straight, you got the first of the back straight, and you got the second back straight, I called it, but obviously one of them really isn't a main overtaking spot. You really got to try and do it into turn 7, I think, is turn 7? Yeah. Obviously, turn 1 is pretty worthless to go for the move unless you're in a train, or unless you're going the first, because it's really that first DRS, the one on the main straight, is really important if you're third backwards, because that means you can just go for a move at turn 1 that people won't expect and just stay in a DRS for the run down to turn 7, But obviously, if you're first, you should probably try to just save as much ERS as you can through that sector 1, because no one's going to be making a move into turn 1 because you're just going to repass them in turn 7 anyway. So we'll see probably a lot of ERS and DRS games at the same time throughout this race, I think. So it's going to be a hella banger, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah, Singapore's got a penchant for bringing up a banger, especially in league racing, where the action is a little bit more crazy than any other. Just have a little reminder while we're waiting here to get going of the calendar, which obviously we are a third of the way through now. I can't believe we're saying this. A third of the way through the calendar already, and it's gone by in a blast. China was what kicked us off with, well, a quality race, which turned on its head at the last moments. Then we headed to Kota with a race that, 1, turned on its head, 2, was incredible drama throughout. Singapore tonight promises to be the same before we head to Las Vegas next week, which, again, we talk about DRS trains. Las Vegas, it's going to be an entire 20-car train around the Nevada Strip, but we look forward to it all the same. And then we've got Great Britain, Silverstone, a classic track to bring us back before 2 very similar tracks will round us off for December and for our winter break. That being Netherlands around Zandvoort, and Hungary, Magyar Nagadic, I believe is the name of the Grand Prix, or it was at least back in old YouTube days. Canada then will kick us off in the new year on January the 9th before Austria, and then the correct track to finish off the season, Brazil, it'll round off the season, and probably a season where we'll see a title fight and a title decider. It smells like one of those seasons.
It really does, yeah. I mean, when was the last time we had a Brazil finale? Was it in season 17? I think? Might have been, because Brazil, obviously, with the final race being Brazil, it's going to be, with Brazil already stirring a lot of chaos normally in normal races. With it being the finale, and this tier having a excitingly close fight every race, it's going to be really interesting to see the evolution of the standings towards Brazil. Obviously, if there's still a title fight in Brazil, I think it's going to be epic. Obviously, as you say, but first we've got to get through this race. Obviously, we've only done 2 of 10 races, really, but that was the third one. See if anyone can sort of climb back up to a good position of standings to be. Obviously, still got what's his name, Triske, who's won the first 2 races. Obviously, 23 points clear in the standings from Belafrox, so he isn't even here. So Paulos in 3rd in the standings, starting in 12th and last actually on the grid. He's got to make up positions actually, because if he doesn't, he's going to be first mad, and second of all, he's not going to be in a good position really for the rest of the season, because it's one of the next few races that you've really got to make an impact on the standings, right? Yeah. Otherwise, you're just not going to get anywhere.
And I mean, attendance is one of the most important things, and we are seeing that second in the standings, Belafrox is not here tonight, as Triske, he's won the first 2 races. He is still here, and he's got almost double Pavlos's points. So it's like it will be very interesting to see whether Pavlos can catch up to Triske. Triske obviously being, he finds himself in 5th place, while Pavlos is in last. They could be the 2 title contenders. But we're going to go to the 5 red lights for the Singapore Grand Prix. It's lights. And it's action. Nico gets an absolutely incredible launch. Duncan is struggling to keep up. He might fall into the trap of Micromash and AMS Knight behind. They are fighting though, as there's a kick Sauber off the track. That is Josh, who rejoins in 7th place. But Micromash and AMS Knight, they went side by side momentarily. Junkie Angle and Triske are side by side now as the Mercedes tries to gain a position on the Ferrari. He's around the outside trying to gain the slipstream off of Micromash ahead. He's unable to do that, but so is Triske. So they will be pretty much matching side by side. as somebody trying to get involved behind Mad Dogs, that is, who's now sent it down the inside of the Ferrari. Junkie Angle finds his way up to P5 as there's smoke pluming out of the cars ahead. Josh looks to the inside line of Bram de Vissel. The Mercedes has the outside line, he has the grip, and he holds onto that P8. But all the positions, they've pretty much maintained the same. The only ones that have changed, Junkie Angle moving above Triscay. Mad Dogs and Bram de Vissel getting past Josh, and Pavlos has made it past VK at the start. As you can see, that smoke is utterly ridiculous on it going into the hairpin. This is a problem that has arisen in the game, and well, we'll presumably see a lot of it tonight. I'll try and stay in the off-board cameras in the corners, but sometimes I can't help myself. Ollie Hornby is looking to get past Josh now, looking to the inside line for turn number 17. Is he able to make this move? He's gonna send it. Is he able to hold it, though? He is indeed. Josh running wide onto the curbing, but Ollie Hornby finds his way up to P9. It's side by side between Pavlos and VK around the final corner. That is an incredible move from VK that sees him into P11, and the battle there could be incredible as Nico and Duncan now making contact. Nico making a mistake out of turn number 2, and Duncan, he's right behind to try to capitalise. You can see as AMS Knight trying to get involved as well. Looking at the tyres, all the top 4 are on medium compounded tyre, on the hard even compounded tyre. Junkie Angle and Josh are on the mediums, and Junkie Angle's continuing in this train. Duncan, he's looking to lead it as he tries to head around the outside. Nico gives him a squeeze, there's contact, and Duncan sends it. Is he able to pull off this move? Nico's going to squeeze him once again into the wall, but Duncan looks for the switchback move. He's unable to make it, but Nico clings on to this lead by the skin of his teeth.
Yeah, that was a really hairy moment for Nico out of turn 1. Almost put it in the wall already on lap 2 of 31. Duncan looks for a little move as Junkie and Micromasher. Oh, that's a bit of damage, I think, for someone. Maybe Junkie being squeezed into the wall. A bit of carbon fibre flying in a distance. Try to find out who that is. I know that Josh has picked up damage already, which is why Ollie Hornby was trying to get past him quite quickly. I think it might be, yeah, it is. Junkie's got damage as well as being pushed in the wall as his smoke continues to rise from the ground. I mean, that smoke is going to catch someone out, I reckon, at one point, because this smoke is, you're really blinded by it. Someone goes off the track in the final corner. I think it's Bram de Vissel, but that smoke, someone's going to get caught out at some point by the smoke, because I'm surprised they're still able to keep racing like this while there's this smoke around. I mean, how can they see through corners? It's amazing.
Yeah, it makes me, it's one of the rare things that makes me glad that I'm not any good at this game, because then I would have to drive in it. And, well, that is ridiculous. The pixels being thrown up there. Literally block pixels that make it impossible to see. I know that some leagues have actually forced their drivers to turn ABS on just so they don't have to deal with those sorts of scenarios. But yeah, Junkie Angle making his way past Mad Dogs into P6, looking to fight back after what was it was an over-ambitious send, I'd argue, into the hairpin, and going up to this hairpin now. He just, yeah, he sent it into the hairpin and then lost the rear, but then still made contact with, I believe it was Triscay ahead, and it's costing him a little bit of time. It's costing him a bit more time because of the circuit that we find ourselves at, Singapore, which is, it lends itself a lot to slower speed corners, and when you pick up wing damage here, it's essentially a race killer. So it's how much does that affect him? He's currently out of the DRS of Triscay. Whether he can fight his way back in, I think he needs to at this point if he wants to be able to fight for anything. But at the moment, yeah, he's 9/10 behind as the fastest lap gets traded. AMS Knight is the latest to hold it, as the top 3 have built up a gap of 1.5 seconds, 2 Micromash behind. And this is a fight that is developing. A fight that is developing that I'd expect to continue throughout this race. We've seen Nico's racecraft. It was pretty decent in Kota, apart from that one isolated incident with Pavlos that was deemed his fault by the stewards. We've seen Triscay, who's also 1.4 seconds off. We've seen him fight for the race victory. And, well, yeah, Micromash is 1.4 seconds off the DRS. Triscay is 2 seconds off. But if the McLaren can fight forward, then that could make a completely different story for this race. But at the moment, it's just those two, and then 1.2 seconds, 1.1 now to Mad Dogs behind, who's just fighting away with Junkie Angle. You'd expect this to be the battle for P6, and I think that is how it's going to end up. Josh unable to make those fights forward on those medium compounded tyres. Just the damage for the medium runners is showing. It's not helping them show their true pace this evening, and so they're just having to tuck in that 7th and 8th place. Junkie Angle looking a bit more aggressive than Josh is, as Josh is just trying to settle into the race. Now, I think that was another end plate going off for Josh to even more wing damage. It's getting even worse for him. But I'll tell you who else it's going badly for. The Williams drivers. Pavlos has made his way past Ollie Hornby, but Ollie with no pace since that early stint, and he finds himself down in P11 behind his own teammate of Pavlos as we head now onto lap number 5.
You're just mentioning carbon fly. Oh, that's ascent into turn 1 by Pavlos. Didn't work there, but you're just mentioning end plates flying up. Actually, I've seen Mad Dogs has picked up damage as well, so there's 3 people now missing end plates, 1 person missing 2, as I believe Pavlos has just let Ollie Hornby by into turn 5. That's an interesting move, but more shuffling up the order as Triske gets past Micromash, I think, and Junkie Angle gets past Mad Dogs, but the mediums are now going to start to degrade a bit, because while the hards have similar tyre wear somewhat to the medium at the start, now is the time where the mediums is going to start to fall off. You're going to have to take care of the tyres, and that's going to be the case for Junkie, who's got throwing damage, and Josh is missing 2 end plates, in fact. So that throwing damage is going to make the tyre wear even worse than medium, in fact. So this is not going to be fun at all, as I think Ollie Hornby just had a little moment out the hairpin. He's just ghosted there, and Pavlos has just got back through. Perhaps the 2 missing end plates is that normal damage? That is normal damage. Brander Wiesel, the 4th victim of hitting the wall and picking up damage. So that's not ideal for those 4 who've got damage at the minute. Obviously Josh with the 2 missing end plates, it's really not ideal. It's going to really make the front tyre wear go boom, as I think Brander Wiesel is actually in the pits. He is on lap 6 to get a pair of mediums and a new front wing. Which is interesting, he does that because Josh on his mediums and missing 2 end plates is 9, which is a bold call, I think, from Brander Wiesel. I think he should have stayed out there, but he does what he wants as Micromash gets back past Triske for 4th. He's a lot of 4.2 seconds behind the leaders. That's really been creeping up without my attention there, because I didn't think they were that far, but apparently they are. So the DRS strain from the front 3 is really, really effective for them, but perhaps Micromash and Triske has just been fighting a lot, so that's what probably built up the 4 seconds. As Ollie Hornby has made his way up to 8th. As the yellow flag, never mind, he has not made it up to 8th, and a virtual safety car. That is the commentator's curse, everyone. Not ideal, but now we're down to 10. And yeah, that's a virtual safety car. So, good chance to regen at ERS if you're low, so, and potentially save fuel. I know one of them under fueled, so I think there's one of Mercedes, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the top 3 just having such a huge gap is mainly because of their pace. They just got outright pace here. Some drivers are better at some circuits than others, and from the looks of things, Duncan and Knight are better here than they are anywhere else. Nico, he was good last time out. He's being quite good tonight again, and if he's able to stay penalty free, this could be a free hit for him in terms of picking up 25 points. Triske comes into the pits, so does Junkie Angle and Mad Dog. So it is an interesting time to come into the pits. Brander Wiesel, I think, he felt like he couldn't cope with that damage, and so he came in medium compound strapped on, and he was just hoping that he was going to be able to maybe get a late safety car where he can switch off those mediums. But yeah, Triske and Mad Dog switching onto mediums, Junkie Angle and Josh switching onto the hard. So both of the medium runners switching back to a full front wing and the harder compound of tyre. It was interesting as well to see that Mad Dogs and Triske, I think they must have had damage as well, because they are back with Junkie Angle and Josh. It's very, very interesting. This is a battle that is beginning to brew. This is something that it's worth keeping an eye on.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking through the pit lane to see those entering, and I'd noticed Josh was completely missing a front wing now. So maybe something happened with Josh and Ollie, as he has a nice little drift, does Josh. But one person who's not going to be happy at all from this is Bram de Wiesen, because he pits for a new front wing a few laps, I think, or a lap just before the virtual safety car. So he's going to be kicking himself quite a bit, I think. And he's going to be on older tyres as well, which is not going to be ideal. But this smoke you can see from just Josh, it's incredible. I mean, I'm not really surprised by the amount of people who lost their front wing there, or part of their front wing, because how can they see the wall with the big smoke? I mean, just imagine even in tracks like Monaco. Imagine if Monaco was a third round and it wasn't Singapore. Imagine the new chicane, how you can see that. But this smoke the driving is dealing with is seriously impressive that not more of them have crashed, really. But well, now we're still lap 8 to 31. There's still a long way to go. We still need to finish the race, you know. There's just 10 people left as Brandon is at the fastest lap, actually. But there's still a good fight brewing at the front. I'll see if anyone's got front wing damage from anyone else, because that could be crucial as Nico drifts around the hairpin as Mad Dog get past Junk Angle here. But other tyres starting to fall off, and other drivers themselves starting to get fatigued a bit by the smoke and just the nature of Singapore. It gets you quite tired of Singapore generally. After 31 laps of this, sometimes I get exhausted myself quite a bit, so perhaps the drivers are starting to feel the fatigue kicking a bit, and the tyre wear, obviously it's not going to make them easy. With the smoke combined, it's going to be quite an impressive feat to keep up until the pit stops.
Yeah, and obviously you know what you're talking about, having sat on the podium last week around Kota. You have seen the smoke in person, as well as obviously having driven Singapore as well. But yeah, I mean, the smoke is not ideal as there's yellow flags out. It's not ideal for, I believe, that is a contact between Bram de Wiesen and Josh. I know Josh has gone, and that is another front wing. The Kick Sauber team, they'll be struggling for front wing budgets now, as he has to come in and replace a complete one. Well,
that's in the wall. Ooh.
Okay. I thought I was about to curse him instantly. How on earth has he managed to keep out there?
That was lucky. Wow, that is amazing. But I haven't actually done the race of smoke yet, as you were saying. But as he's going to miss the pit lane, he's going to miss the pit lane. And that's not allowed. Ooh. And that's a reset, and that's a 10-second.
He's retired.
I'm not surprised at that decision, but well, now the 9 people then. But yeah, I haven't actually raced with smoke, so I'm not. The smoke came Monday, I think. So
there was smoke at Kota last week. Oh no, there wasn't. I lied.
There was very minimal smoke. It was smoke on Monday. It may have been very obviously pre-patch smoke, obviously, but yeah, I mean, the drivers continue to explore the smoke. Really, it's still quite a new thing. It should get patched. I have seen the community-raised issues. They are working on it again, because that's not how it was expected to be. But it's lap 10 of 31. But yeah, a lot of drivers are still discovering the smoke. I'm sure this is probably the first race with smoke for some of these drivers. But yeah, so I mean, some people do only WOR in a week, so it's probably brand new to them still, and they're not experienced. So perhaps that's those who had front damages. Nico goes offline on the straight. That's an interesting. I'm not sure why I would do that, but anyway, keeps the lead ahead of Duncan and Knight, keeping incredible consistency, even though this smoke we've been talking about the entire race. I've probably said the word smoke a lot more than any other word I've said today, but the top 3 just keeping incredible consistency. Micromash in 4th, pretty isolated, 5 seconds ahead of Pavlos in 5th, who has had quite an unfortunate qualifying, to say the least, and not the best of starts to the race ever, but it still can be recovered from here. There still can be a safety car which flips the race on its head, and there still could be any winner out of these lot. I mean, Bram de Wiesen probably has still a good chance of winning the race at this point, because there could be a good chance of safety car with a big mistake from someone, so you never know.
There's always a chance of a safety car here around the Marina Bay Street circuit at any point, because anything really could happen, and I'm sure that or I'm hoping at some point tonight that we'll get that. Although it does seem though that the battle at the top is brewing quite temptingly now, quite tastily, as they're 7 seconds up almost on Micromash in 4th. But there's just 7/10 separating the 3, and yeah, I did make that mistake. That smoke did come in on Monday. I commentated both Kota around the around on the console and the PC side. Reminder for you that if you weren't aware already, that there is console and PC races to tune into. We've got console tiers 3, 4, 5, and 6 being streamed tonight. 1 and 2 will come tomorrow, and Niall, I'm sure you'll be racing in one of those.
Yep, it is tomorrow. Let's get it.
And then we've got on Monday comes most of the PC tiers. The other one is on Sunday, I believe, for tier 1. So it's I am right, it was Sunday. That's quite impressive because I did that off the top of my head.
Tier 1 not finished.
Ah, no, I'm wrong. Yeah, tier 1 has finished. Oh, I was so impressed with myself there. I was so impressed with myself.
Well, they have a little rotation with Monday, I think. Did PC tier 1? I think I had a few races on Monday, but now it's done. So the next action after tomorrow will be on Monday. With PC heading to Singapore themselves. Because now the calendar's kind of switched order, really, from the previous years. You'd always have PC doing the races first on Monday, then the console side learning off them and gaining a lot of experience for Thursday and Friday. But now it's the other way around. The PC are now after console, and it doesn't switch back round until the end of the season. So it probably changed quite a lot of approaches for these console drivers, actually, if you think about it, because a lot of them have just been learning from the PC drivers, but now it's just all up to them. They're going to be teaching the PC drivers themselves, which has probably made them a bit slower than they probably wanted and originally were going to be, and it probably leads to more mistakes as well. But I mean, we'll still see. Still lap 12 of 31, still a long, long way to go here in Singapore. It's not even halfway through the race at all yet, and still get to see many pit stops and many battles all the way to the end. Potentially safety car. No tier 3's already got a safety car. They just had a restart, I believe. So yeah, still could be one. Never know.
Yeah, I mean, again, it could happen at any point, and that is a Ferrari going slowly of Trisco, but it may have just been the part of the track, although that is a huge kick from Trisco. So maybe those mediums are struggling a little bit more than they should be after 5 laps of racing. We've had 11 laps of racing for Nico, Duncan, at Knight, Micromash and Pavlos, the only drivers not to have pitted yet. Pavlos is at the rear of that train and will probably drop to the back of the field, maybe just ahead of Bram de Vissel, who came in earlier for that wing damage. But yeah, the top 3, a fight is brewing, although it appears as though Knight is dropping off from this group a little bit. Duncan still maintaining those 4/10 to Nico, but Knight, it's jumping up to about 6-7 which, you know, if you make a small mistake at some point in the lap, it could really, really cost you. It could really screw you over in terms of, because you could lose 3/10, and then there's the DRS gone. So even a small mistake could lead to a big, big error. It's the butterfly effect, and there we go. Duncan making a big mistake and allowing Knight right back onto the rear of the Alpine. You can see the Alpine text actually on the rear of that car. I think Alpine might be the only team to have the team name written on the back of the thing.
I think so. Yeah.
McLaren have
just check the other rear wings.
I'm trying to do that as well.
Mercedes.
Williams has it on the front. Ferrari's got nothing.
I know Ferrari used to have it on their rear wing.
They did.
Before HP came in. Yeah, that was quite beautiful actually. But
yeah,
well, I think that's a question we'll have to answer for another time, really. But
HP
I mean,
does make
like
that
fatigue, as I was mentioning, though. I mean, before the fatigue is now kicking in definitely with these worn-out tires. The top 3 are definitely going to be having a lot more mistakes than were before. With obviously the 12-lap-old hards. Track limits is still in consideration here. While this is a street circuit, there's still track limits and there's still areas you can pick up these warnings and get a penalty, which could potentially ruin your race, especially if it's a late safety car, you know. I mean, you got to be really careful at the same time. You really have to drive under the limit, but still at the limit, if you know what I mean, because you still got to get up to across the walls and get maximum track usage as possible. But as well, you don't want to crash. You don't want to get the track limits. So you gotta really have to find that balance, and it's quite hard. You have to get a bit of experience at Singapore. It's one of those tracks you have to really get used to be able to do effectively. But some of these drivers are still discovering the limits, in fact, at Singapore. I'm sure, like, some people might have their first race today at Singapore on this game cycle. So, I mean, the experience is not there. So, potentially, a few of those who got front wing damage earlier, maybe some of the experienced ones, but we'll see. It's going to pay off at the end of a race. Obviously, at the end of a race, you're going to be a lot more experienced at Singapore than just 30 laps or 31 laps by the end. But the fatigue, again, I mean, I can't keep stressing about fatigue here, because the fatigue is just, it's a big factor. As I'm probably thinking some of the top three, and Micromash, maybe Pavlos and anyone else, they might be feeling that fatigue here, just getting a bit bored. Especially, you feel it especially when you're isolated a bit, like Micromash and Brown Division, who are just really nowhere compared to, well, I say nowhere, they're quite isolated compared to everyone else. You get quite bored, and then the fatigue, because you're bored, starts to kick in, and you get some damage. But we're now on lap 15. We're probably going to get some pit stops underway in about 3 or 4 laps time. So the driver's got to now wake up, make sure they get the most out of his hards, or mediums, if he pits early for the virtual safety car. And yeah, it's going to get now quite exciting. This is probably going to be one of the most exciting bits of the race, and the most crucial bits of the race, in fact, to determine the order of finish. Because it's not easy to take here. As you can see, Duncan is just not, he wasn't able to get past Nico at all. He got that little sniff on lap 2, but that was pretty much it. He hasn't been able to get much closer since, and AMS Knight either. Well, he got a bit close the other lap, but that was it pretty much.
And it's not like they're pushing, they are just trying to keep it on the track at the moment. And I think it's an interesting point to raise about the fact that, you know, the likes of Micromash, the likes of Bramble and Triscay as well, who'll be in the middle of nowhere. There's also an argument to say that you don't want to be following either, because of the fact, and we'll go back to it, the smoke that will be thrown up by the cars in front. I'm sure that Duncan and Knight will both be struggling with that behind Nico. Nico, he can just drive how he wants, because he's in the lead of this race. I've had a look at the track limits. That's probably going to be a track limits violation for Nico. It might not be, actually, but yeah, at the moment it's Nico with no track limits warnings, Duncan with 1, but AMS Knight, he's got 2. So one more warning, and that translates into a 3-second time penalty. And when it's so tight, when you've got 3 drivers so close together, as we've crossed over the halfway point of this race, none of them have been able to break free from this battle. When you've got 3 drivers so close together, that is where the issues start to come with the track limits penalty. We saw last time out, all 3 of the top ones, the top drivers, had 3 seconds worth of penalties. But had Nico not, and then he picked up that 3 second for the contact with Pavlos, he would have been absolutely fine in terms of the race result, because he would have still won. It would have nullified. But if you don't pick up a penalty, if you don't pick up a single penalty, then that is going to flow your way. And especially at this sort of level, where there are mistakes naturally that are drawn out a little bit more of the drivers. The ones further up are a little bit more refined. But at this level, you're expecting a few more penalties. You're expecting a few more mistakes. And around Singapore, it's impossible not to make any mistakes throughout your race. And if you do, then you're clearly in some sort of flow state. But yeah, I mean, it's staying penalty free will be vital. I don't think Knight's going to be able to do it. I think Nico's going to be able to do it, as Micromash comes into the pits now. As you said, it's the first pits. The pit stops will be coming in the next few laps. The McLaren is the first of those, and he comes into the pits to get rid of those 16-lap-old hards and switch onto a set of brand new medium compound of tyres. And he'll be coming out in 8th place ahead of Bramble Vissel, who is right down at the rear of the field by a significant margin now. And he will have to come into the pits soon, so not his day. And he'll just be hoping now that he's able to, well, maybe a safety car at the best case scenario. Worst case scenario, he's got 2 free points for his team, which is why I don't understand why Josh and VK came in, because points are points. And if you're in a title fight, any sort of points is exactly what you want. Ollie Hornby, a slightly different scenario because he crashed, so he can't really complain about that. But AMS Knight getting a little bit loose on the exit behind Duncan as he's trying to aim up into the Alpine's rear view mirrors, trying to assert himself as coming around the final couple of corners now are this pack. Surely somebody's going to pull the trigger. Duncan is going to be that driver as he comes into the pits. The Alpine almost losing the rear. It's a very difficult pit entry, probably the most difficult on the calendar, and the Alpine driver is into the pits. We'll see where he comes out. If he comes out in that pack of Triscay, Junkie Angle and Mad Dogs, he'll be kicking himself for coming into the pits, as Pavlos has an issue on the pit entry. He hits the wall. As I said, it is a tricky pit entry, and now he's missing half his front wing. Well. Yeah. And that's very unfortunate for the Williams, who's driven it's a race where, because he's had to turn it on suddenly, because he's had to drive sharply into the pit lane. That's where the struggles have come, because he must have struggled on pit entry. That is where the struggles have come for the Williams, which means that now he's going to drop down, probably behind Mad Dogs. He's dropped down behind Graham de Vissel as he comes out on the new mediums. Has he not fixed his front wing? Because it feels like he was in there for too short, as Duncan did actually come out the pits behind Triscay. It's hard to tell from this. This is an awful camera angle for it. No, he has replaced it. So maybe Mad Dogs also had to replace his front wing. Interesting. But anyway,
Mad Dogs, yeah, he did have damage. I did notice an end plate lying on the floor. I had a quick look to see who it was. It was Mad Dogs. He had picked up damage again. It's the second time this race, so the mistakes are coming in. But now this is crucial for Duncan to get past Triscay. ASAP looks for a move in the hairpin, but all of this is benefiting Nico and Knight, who both filed into the pit lane. This is going to be a race of Red Bull versus RB. But however, it really depends on how fast you click for the pit stop. But Nico should come out ahead of Knight. Knight pulls into his box now. There should be no problem. Yeah, he's going to come out. But where is Duncan going to be? Because he's just wasted a bit of tyre trying to get past Triscay. But Nico and Knight, are they going to come out behind Triscay? I wonder. Come out pit lane now. It's quite skirmish, but they are going to get one of them's going to come out at least. And they're both behind Triscay. So that could be a huge turning point in a race, because Duncan has just undercut AMS Nico here. But if Nico doesn't get back past Triscay now, which he is going to go for a move here, down the outside, and he gets it done, but spins Triscay a bit. Big loss of grip as AMS Knight takes advantage, says thank you very much, I'll take back my P3. But look at the gaps that's created here. It's almost out of DRS range. That could have been very, very race ending, pretty much. Well, not race ending, but win chance ending for Nico and Knight. But now they've got the lap fresh advantage. AMS Knight pretty much in the same position as he was before, but Duncan now ahead of Nico. But with that extra lap, is that gonna come back to haunt him at the end of a race? I wonder, for pulling the undercut. But someone is gonna have to. Oh, sorry.
That's all right. It's the risk that you take when you're running the undercut strategy, that your tyre is going to be older, and he did a bit more running behind Triscay than the other two did. So naturally, it's going to be a little bit more difficult as now coming out of the final corner. Triscay and Junkie Angle, they could be fighting in the next couple of corners. Call that now? No, don't call it now. Call it in the next couple of corners, as I mentioned before, because now Triscay's gone wide. Those mediums are really falling off for the Ferrari, and the move 4P4 could be on after this DRS zone. Power is down for the Mercedes, for the Ferrari, but the DRS is open, and that is going to be the difference between the Mercedes and the Ferrari in terms of making the overtake stick. And through goes Junkie Angle. Mad Dogs comes through to take the fastest lap of the race so far in P9, 9 seconds off of Pavlos. So his race not necessarily over if Pavlos can be quite slow, and also if Bramber Vissel comes into the pits. But we're watching now with Nico, who had further contact with one of the drivers that he was fighting with last time out in Kota, Triske. This time in a very different scenario. He was just trying to send it. I think Triske got a little bit overzealous with the defense, and Nico was a little bit more desperate to get that move done. And yeah, they came together. It wasn't an ideal scenario, but now Nico, with the power down, he's closing in on Duncan, and I think he looks a little bit more desperate to get past, to get that advantage back of that track position as he heads out of the final couple of corners, out of the third sector and into the first one. Again, the power is down for the Red Bull. The DRS is open for the Red Bull, but the main straight DRS it's essentially pointless because you cannot make any moves. It's not long enough to make any moves, but with that turn, the sort of first section in the Singapore Grand Prix, the first like 3 corners where it's you have to get them right. If you get one wrong, then you get the whole section wrong. And I think Duncan got the whole section wrong in the end, and Nico slots through into P1. Knight looking to the inside line of Duncan. He squeezes, does the Alpine, but the RB manages to make his way through. Duncan just really struggling for that traction because of how aggressively he tried to defend on AMS Knight. But the defense in the end was unsuccessful. The RB finds his way past and into P2, and now Duncan. The race has gone from looking incredibly promising for that race victory to, well, the race as normal.
I'm sure the stewards are going to have a look at that AMS Night Sense because that was late. It was bold. Got a little bit of contact, but went through with the ghosting on. So I'm sure the stewards are going to take a look at it if Duncan reports it. I don't see any damage so far on either driver, so they should be all clear. But one thing, I've just seen a piece of media for you Ollie Hornby fans still watching. He was caught out by the famous smoke. He misjudged the corner into the orange wall sticking out thing, the corner where George Russell crashed last year. Except it was on the inside of the corner instead of the entry. But with the smoke, he couldn't see anything and turned in too early. And ended his race, unfortunately. So that's what happened to him. That's an 8/10 gap for MS Nico. So Knight clearly struggling a bit, but it's an important move he had to make to get to P2 because now he can fight for the win with Nico. He's got fresher tyres than Duncan, and Duncan I'm sure won't be wanting to have a send because what's just happened. So he might be now a little bit demotivated to do a little send, but we'll see. There's still 8 laps to go, 10 laps to go still. So I mean, any one of these can still be caught up with the smoke, and that's the first track limit penalty of the day on lap 22. That's interesting. By Mad Dogs, who is only going to fall out to 9th. Well, I think he's going to fall out on track anyway, because Triske with that 4-lap pressure tyres, and being a championship leader, of course, probably one of the fastest guys on the track anyway, but it's quite surprising. It's only been, I mean, it's been 22 laps, and we've seen our first track limit penalty. I'd fully expected to be having a track limit penalty before, in fact, quite before, like lap 10 maybe, for the first penalty to come up. But that's, I mean, it's still a good third race to go. You know, there's still anything can happen. I'm sure anything can happen to the top 3. One of them might hit the wall, get damaged, DNF, could cause a chain reaction, and they all DNF, and Junkie wins the race with these hards he's got. But my crash is going to set him up in a few moments. As there we go, that's our second penalty. Triske gets the 3 seconds, so now Triske is going to have to get it moved on track no matter what. Well, already Mad Dogs get penalty removed, but that's kind of nullified a tiny bit of Mad Dog's worries, but he's now still going to have to defend from Triske anyway. As Micromash goes for the move in on Junkie into P4 with the mediums against the 16-lap-old hards. It's going to be quite tight for Junkie to make it to the end with efficient grip with those hards, while Micromash did pit early, however, so it could still be close at the end if Junkie still has some grip available, as Triske does get past Mad Dogs P8 and takes effective P8 now. But yeah, there's still a long way to go. I mean, anything can happen at this point. But yeah.
I think, yeah, it's almost not worth Junkie Angle coming into the pits because he is 15.3 seconds ahead of Pavlos. And the pitting will cost about 30 seconds, so he would come out in that last place. So I think it's almost not worth it because I don't think he's going to lose 15 seconds even if his tyres are shot by the end. The only chance of that is if he gets a puncture. And I think the Mercedes, if he's able to manage the car to the end effectively as drivers at this level should be able to, then he won't need anything along those lines. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. 7 laps left in this race, and yeah, it's not looking like an exciting end for anyone apart from the top drivers. As Bramber Bissell comes into the pit, 17 laps on those mediums is what he's done. Softs, is it? Please tell me it's soft. No, it's not. It's more mediums for the last 7 laps of the race. He could have gone exciting, but when I know how much those tyres go as an AMS Knight, 3 seconds worth of penalties.
That's
I did say he was going to pick up those penalties of that top group, and indeed he did. Knight with 3 seconds worth of time penalties. It will now drop him behind Duncan in terms of the post-race standings if it was to stay how it is. But with Duncan on the brink of losing that DRS, with AMS Knight on the brink of losing the DRS to Nico, the race could have just changed, maybe for the worse for Knight and Duncan. 3 seconds worth of penalties obviously for Knight, but it does mean that he can pick up 2 more warnings without having to worry about it too much. Around the final corner now goes Duncan and Knight. 1.3 seconds off. This is the first time that we haven't seen the RB with the DRS wing open. We have seen, though, the Alpine, and so he's going to close down. P3 should become P2 in the next couple of laps, despite the fact that he's got 1 lap older tyres on that Alpine car. But now coming out of the first sort of segment of corners, DRS is going to be wide open for the Alpine, and he's going to try to gain that time. He's not gaining much, though, on the RB, interestingly enough. And yeah, he's going to stick behind now in P3. But surely, at some point soon, he's going to try to make that move. But I don't think he's going to make it quick enough to catch Nico.
Yeah, I mean, Knight losing that DRS, I mean, that's already with the 3-second time penalty. Any hopes and dreams, and probably investigation post-race as well. That's really ruined anything. But someone else has been ruined is Duncan's chances of winning, because he's almost 3 seconds behind Nico now. He's got to clear Knight fast if he wants any shot. Because Knight has really fallen back since losing that DRS. 2.3, 2.5 now. So Duncan's going to have to get on with it if he wants a shot still at winning if Nico gets a track limit penalty or something, or damage. Because, like, this is really hurting his chances here. You can see the gap increasing. I mean, Nico is flying, and Knight is just falling away. He's lost so much time this last. So it's over 3 seconds now, in fact. But yeah, I mean, this is completely turned the race on its head, really. Well, not really, but like, it's changed the top 3 fight. Maybe we were looking for an exciting fight at the end, but it's very unlikely to happen now. Unless Nico gets a 3 second, then we're going to have to see Duncan edging with the 3 second gap for the end. But still going to happen. Still 6 odd laps to go. 5.5 really, but anything can happen.
Yeah, I'm sure that something will happen. I'm sure that it's going to be between the Alpine and the RB of Duncan and Knight. Although he doesn't necessarily need to make this move unless he really thinks that he can catch that now 3 second gap to AMS Nico. I think it's going to be unlikely that he's going to be able to, but never say never with 5 laps left to go in this Grand Prix. We still could get a safety car in this race, although it's looking increasingly unlikely by the lappers. Nobody's really going to be crashing into each other at this point, because the only driver within DRS range is Duncan on Knight, and we've seen how consistent these two have been. But we've said throughout that this track does wear you down. It does get a little bit difficult to deal with, because it is tight, but it's not tight enough to keep you on your toes constantly, and it's not loose enough where if you make a mistake, it's not going to cost you. I mean, Josh was lucky earlier on in this race that he wasn't. He didn't retire when he went straight on with completely an entire front wing off. But yeah, I mean, in the end, he did retire, but he retired in the pits. after all sorts of things happening, penalties being picked up, another post-race penalty that would be applied if he'd finished that race. All those sorts of things were happening all at the same time for the Kick Sauber, but yeah, he retired and he became the third retirement in this race and the last retirement in this race, hopefully, with 4 laps to go now in this Grand Prix. It's getting less likely that we will be seeing a safety car with each lap that goes by, and I think this might even be the last lap where we'd be able to see a safety car. So if somebody wants to do us a solid and lose all chance of points in this race, then feel free to do so. But looking back at Junkie Angle, I said that he wasn't going to come into the pits because he was 15 seconds ahead of Pavlos. Pavlos has slashed that down to 5 seconds with... Sorry, he slashed it down by 5 seconds to 10 seconds is what I meant to say. But he's still holding that P5, and unless Pavlos is able to make those worn mediums, which they are now, work, or Triscay is able to make those increasingly wearing mediums work, then I think we could be in for an easy P5 for Junkie Angle. But Triscay, having said that, has gained 3/10 on Pavlos in just Sector 2 alone, and he's just bearing down on him more as now he's picked up the DRS, and it's about 6/10 in the last 3 corners, and the Ferrari is looking to get past the Williams, and the pace advantage that he's got is supreme. He's now got a sector of he's got a sector of pretty much straight lining to do, but the one braking zone that he has to deal with, he's messed it up, so he's not going to be as close to Pavlos as he would have liked out of the final corner and into the first one. In the meantime, Duncan makes his way past Knight with the DRS, the second DRS of the lap, and he is up into P2 as I expected, and he's now going to try and bear down on Nico, but with 3.2 seconds being the gap, it's unlikely that the Alpine's going to be able to do anything. But Triscay, he's going to get the DRS. We saw, well, we didn't see, but Duncan made a move here with that DRS. Can Triscay do exactly the same thing? He's going to swing to the inside line, and he's not even going to need to take it as Pavlos backs out of the move, and Triscay moves up into P6. Pavlos looking to the inside, but backing straight back out of it, and the Ferrari has now free reign to break away to try and break that 9.5 second gap to Junkie Angle. He'll have to gain 3 seconds more if he wants to beat out the Mercedes on track, and that means that he's probably going to have to fight with Micromash. But, I mean, gaining 10 seconds in the last 3 laps of this race, it's very, very unlikely, and... yeah, it looks as though, unless anybody has a dramatic incident, this is how the race is going to finish, with AMS Knight almost out of the DRS of Duncan now.
Yeah, I was just keeping an eye now with the fights going on around the track. Obviously, Duncan now getting past Knight is important, but I did a quick look at, as Bromley Diesel gets a track limit penalty, I was just having a look at the track limits now for AMS Nico. He picked up his first one on lap 27, so there's no... It's very, very unlikely a 3-second battle, distant battle between Nico and Duncan for the win. So it should, as you said, finish like this. Potentially, if Pavlos can stay within the 3 seconds of Triscay, change around to P6. But it should just now be calm for the rest of the race. We've only got 2.5 to go really by now, so... should just be a nice and calming end to the race, which is complete contradiction to what Tier 3 have had. I've just been having a look as well, just a bit. They've had quite a dramatic race so far, so check them out after the race. Check Tier 3 out. Well, they've not finished yet at all. They're quite far from finishing in a minute, so check the Tier 3 stream after this one. You're not going to want to miss that either. But about to start lap 30. AMS Nico just heading now down towards that final corner, which is it catches a lot of people out that final corner. I'm surprised no one has really been caught out by that last corner all race. It's really one in qualifying. You just have those massive snaps of oversteer sometimes, and no one's had that. Like, apart from qualifying, where we saw a lot of people actually get caught up by the last corner, no one's been, apart from Ollie actually, no one's been in the barrier and like crashed out. Like, there's no DNS from the barrier. Well, obviously after losing a front wing, Josh and VK, but the proper DNF, it's been only Ollie. I mean, it's driving standards this race has been quite outstanding in terms of not, well, keeping out of the barriers for some people, and well, entirely. Obviously, a lot of people have lost elements of their front wing, but only one person's fully DNF'd from crashing, so it's quite impressive from most of these drivers, because Singapore's one of them. You just get a lot of DNFs in the race. As Brown de Wiesel pits for no reason, because he's doing a fast lap point. But you're going to get a fast lap point anyway. It's just a free thing to brag, I suppose, but because obviously there's no fast lap point in WOR. If you're learning that first time now you know there's no fast lap. It never has been, I don't think. So seeing the 2020 5-point system in action already since a long time, as Brown de Wiesel, he's gonna get ahead, is he? He's gonna keep on the lead lap. He's just gonna be on a lead lap. 3 DRS to Nico then, thank you, but I mean that's not changing anything. It's now the final lap actually, so Brown de Wiesel is gonna, unless he gets lapped, which he should.
Nico's right behind him.
Yeah, but he's got fresh softs, so it should be fine if he pushes on his softs to get them warmed up as well for the fastest lap. Just for a little bragging right, I suppose. But I mean, Nico's been almost flawless, apart from lap 2, where we saw the little that got too close. As I was talking about being flawless, has clipped the wall with his rear right tyre. He's been quite flawless in tyre race, apart from that lap 2 incident, where we saw having almost losing the entire race and having a spin at the second corner and being on the threat from Duncan. He's never really had any other moment where his race was completely dead. It's just been a really, really solid drive, and it's really paid off for Nico the entire way through, qualifying and race. It's just been incredible, and now he's going to round off the last braking zone, and now it should be flat out, almost to a little lift for the final corner, slightly lifts and across the line, and Nico wins the Singapore Grand Prix in great fashion. EXT Duncan in second, 5.4 behind, and AMS Knight comes home in third place. I'm sure he's going to be quite happy with that, but I'm sure he will also be kicking himself a bit because he got more. 17 seconds back from Knight. In fourth is Micromash, who ends up holding off Junkie Angle for fourth. He'll be quite happy with that, I think. Micromash, he's been delighted. Junkie Angle, quite delighted actually, it seems, with fifth, as Triske comes home in 6.5, or he only finished 2 seconds behind, I think, Junkie Angle, if I'm correct, or 5 seconds, I forgot. But Pavlos in seventh, third in the championship. He's not going to be happy with that at all. He was quite confident into this race, actually, was Pavlos, but that's a bit of a shame, as Bram de Wiesel's on his way to get fastest lap. Mad Dog's across the line to finish in 8th, and Bram de Wiesel is going to be the last car across the line. He's getting the fastest lap here. 2 tenths up on Sector 1. Let's see, Sector 2 is 6 tenths up. It should be easy fast lap. I think he already got fastest lap, if I'm correct, but well, I wouldn't see anyone else get fastest lap, but anyway, should be fastest lap here.
He's not actually got the fastest lap. Currently, it's Mad Dogs with a 128.5. Bram de Wiesel, his best lap is a 128.7. He's 6 tenths improved by that. But coming around the final corner now, it's going to be a 127, I think that was at the end of that. So that is almost, well, it is certainly the fastest lap. And it's a good way to round off probably quite a poor weekend for him. Pavlos somehow picking up driver of the day, not 100% sure what the basis of that is. But yeah, it was a race very well run by Nico, and it was run by Nico because he dominated from start to finish. I don't even think he lost that first place.
I think he did the pit stops.
And well, I mean that the first place in terms of the actual first real place. But
he got undercutted by Duncan, didn't he?
Yeah, but Duncan didn't hold on to that for very long. And then from there, it didn't look like AMS Nico was going to be under any threat. And he indeed wasn't. He came home 5.4 seconds ahead of Duncan. Confirmation then of your final grid. Nico took the victory. Duncan came in second with AMS Knight in third. Then it's Micromash, Junkie Angle, and Triske. Pavlos Mad Dogs and Brandevissel, the final finisher, with Josh, Ollie Hornby and VK being the retirements. But 31 laps of the Singapore Grand Prix is what we've done. We're over a third, or about a third now, through the season. But what a race that was an incredibly well run race by Nico, and a very, very deserved victory.
Yep, absolutely deserves. We'll see if we can get anyone in. Quick interview. I'd like to speak to our top three.
We don't normally get an interview in, but yeah, you know, why not? Why not? So, but yeah, I'll circle back to it. Why not? While we're waiting to see if anybody wants to interview, it's next week. We traverse around the Las Vegas street circuit in Nevada, where DRS trains should be a feature, which means the drivers will be a lot closer on track than they were tonight. So it should be a lot more intriguing. But it's looking like it's going to be a no, I think, in terms of interviews, but that's absolutely fine. But yeah, Las Vegas is coming next week. Singapore, though, returns tomorrow, and it returns with Tier 1 and Tier 2. And now, we can have a little chat to a podium sitter from last time out. How's your preparations going, Niall?
Well, to be fair, I've been practicing with a few of these Tier 4s and the Tier 3s. It's looking like tomorrow is going to be a thriller, I think. Obviously, it should be a lot more exciting than maybe what we expect today. I think today it was still a good race, but it wasn't what I think I would expect it. I think it's been a very, in a good way, because obviously with the chaos, I'm sure many of the drivers would have definitely preferred this style of a race than one we kind of hoping for to watch. But I think tomorrow, both races, Tier 1 and Tier 2, are going to have a thriller, because it's an extremely competitive grid, and it's just going to be amazing to see. So check out Tier 2 and Tier 1 tomorrow if you've got time, obviously, if you're watching still. But obviously, I think Tier 2 starts 7 p.m. UK time, and then Tier 1 kicks off at 8 p.m. UK. So check out both races if you can. If not, then watch back later, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, the Tier 2 preparation's been good.
Yeah, and I think we've had a pretty decent race. If you're not done with WOR action, console Tier 5, it's on the penultimate lap. Console Tier 6 and 3 are on lap 28 of 31. So there's still a little bit, an inkling of action if you're still looking to get your racing fix. But from us tonight, thank you very much for watching. But for now, it is goodbye.